Sunday. Round time. How about that for once in my life? Spot on time. Really don't have a positive quote or message for the day. About this one though. We can't hold a torch to light another's path without brightening our own. That's pretty good. Can't light a torch. Was it? We cannot hold a torch to light another's path without brightening our own. There we are. And today's reading says good fear or bad fear. Brene Brown, one of our people from this region, actually from Houston, who says, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. Brene Brown. And Ernest Holmes, in Living Without Fear, says, we must consciously set the good in motion, recognize and let it work for us. We must consciously set the good in motion, recognize and let it work for us. And that was on page 128 of Living Without Fear. We all experience healthy and unhealthy fears. Healthy fears serve to keep us safe by warning us about real dangers. True, like fire or animals, and so on and so forth. These fears are useful, and they can protect us. Unhealthy fears, though, can hold us back, and they can create problems in our lives. We might be afraid of failing, of being judged, of making commitments, or of being abandoned. I'll come back to that one afterwards. These fears often don't make sense, and they're shaped by our opinions or our past experiences. They can cause harm, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. When we hold to unhealthy fears, we drastically limit our spiritual growth. These fears may come from past trauma and are often fueled by what-if thinking. And she says, to let go of unhealthy fear, try to find the spiritual truth in the situation and ask yourself where this fear might separate you from spirit. What beliefs need to change for you to have the consciousness of wholeness? We may begin this exercise by exploring it intellectually, examining our fears and replacing them with truth. But then our heart must be open so that we can unconsciously embody wholeness, understanding the very truth of our own being. Use the power of your mind to focus on truth, the opposite of your unhealthy fear, and focus on the goodness of life. You can do this in meditation, during prayer, or when journaling. Then begin to feel, and she emphasizes feel. What does it feel like to have essential goodness in your life? Yeah, she mentions there about being abandoned, and we have a cat in here with us. One thing I distinctly remember, I was 4 years old, and I was taken to the hospital by my mother to have my tonsils removed. And I distinctly remember that when she was leaving, I was desperately trying to get out and follow her, but of course the nurses wouldn't let me. And of course she didn't abandon me. But I guess at that early age, at 4 years old, I'd never been separated much from my mother. You know, my father and grandfather at that stage were running a plumbing business. My mother was just a housewife. So I guess and 4 years old, I hadn't started going to what would be preschool. So I guess I spent 98% of my time with my mother, apart from when I was sleeping. So I thought I was being abandoned. And it did impact me later in life. And I had recognized at different times, and I had to work with getting rid of it, that this fear of being left out or left alone, abandoned, was often in the back of my mind, and I really had to work against it. So, all those decades ago, it still affected me. I don't think it does anymore, but it affected me for decades afterwards. And at first unconsciously, and then when I started doing work, I remembered it. So what's the point of my story? Well, I guess the point of my story is you can get over things, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to do that. And it might come up in meditation, it might come up in journaling, but it might come up in sessions when you work on, things like past experiences. So, I've been through different exercises in my time that have taken us back in the past and worked on different things. Emotional freedom technique does that as well. So there are lots and lots of ways. But if you do find out you're suffering from that or something there isn't quite right, then you can often do it. Sometimes people need a therapist to help them do that. And if that's the case, that's fine as well. So those are my comments on that. But the other thing is, somebody once, I forgot who it said, was giving us ways and means of turning our fear into faith. And one way to do that is to logically examine the situation and ask what the most logical outcome is. And oftentimes, it's not the horrible situation. It's actually a good one and getting beyond it. So, yeah, I was talking to Reverend Lisa today and also to Daniel Johnson, who does the Moon Week meditation, and mentioning that we support each other. We mention each other's talks. Why? Because we each have something different to offer. And it's always good and refreshing to get different ideas, different ways of looking at things. So with that in mind, Reverend Lisa will be back tomorrow at 9:15, and Daniel Johnson will be around midweek. And because of her schedule, like me, she can't always guarantee that it's going to be like midday Wednesday, which is when she aims for, but she's not always able to make it. Just like I can't always make 5 o'clock. Why? Because often during the week, I've got a meeting at 5 o'clock outside of the house. So, but I do my best. My knowingness for each and every person here is that everyone is able to move beyond their fears into faith and to have wonderful outcomes in life. And the affirmation is, I release unhealthy fears, choosing to see the spiritual truth in the situation. I release unhealthy fears, choosing to see the spiritual truth in the situation or any situation. Take a deep breath and let it go. And remember, you can always reach out to someone for help. If you are a member of our community, you can reach out to me, any other minister. You can reach out to any of our practitioners, and we're always there to help here. So until next time, namaste.